$1 million. Let that massive number sink in for a second. That is the average upfront cost of a single hospital-grade MRI machine purchased new today. It instantly establishes the incredibly high financial stakes of medical equipment procurement. We are talking about massive capital expenditures here, the kind that can literally make or break the financial health and operational capacity of your entire practice.
So, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're putting on our fractional CFO hats to dive way beneath the surface of those jaw-dropping sticker prices. We're going to reveal the true total cost of ownership when it comes to acquiring medical equipment. Because whether you're outfitting a brand new clinic from scratch or just upgrading an aging aesthetic laser, the choice between leasing and buying is absolutely one of the most critical capital allocation decisions you're ever going to make.
Here's our roadmap for the day. We'll start with the million-dollar equipment dilemma, uncover the true cost of buying, look at why leasing preserves capital, navigate some seriously hidden traps and tax codes, explore the secondary market, and finally, make the right choice. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The million-dollar equipment dilemma and the immediate impact of acquiring advanced technology.
Get this. According to the Equipment Leasing and Finance Association, more than 60% of U.S. business equipment is financed or leased rather than purchased outright. 60%. And healthcare actually leads this trend. Why? Because of the extraordinarily high equipment costs combined with the rapid pace of technological change. The immediate dilemma we all face is pretty simple. Deploying hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash to buy a machine outright totally drains your liquid reserves. And, those are reserves that could otherwise be used to hire amazing new staff, expand your marketing, or just keep the lights on during a slow season.
Moving to Section 2, the true cost of buying. We are looking beneath the surface of that sticker price.
The first massive hidden cost is rapid technological depreciation. Here is a number that might make you wince: 40%. That is the typical depreciation rate of medical imaging equipment in just 4 short years. 4 years! When you own the equipment, you are bearing 100% of that depreciation risk. So if the technology becomes outdated or just completely obsolete before the end of its useful life, your practice is the one eating that heavy financial loss.
Honestly, when you purchase outright or finance through a commercial loan, you're carrying the entire financial weight on your shoulders. You've got a steep 10 to 20% initial down payment before you even see a single patient. Then, you have to account for catastrophic out-of-warranty repair costs. Annual service contracts run anywhere from $15,000 to $60,000 a year just for high-end imaging. Add in the opportunity cost of having your capital tied up in a depreciating asset, plus all that front-loaded loan interest. And suddenly, that initial sticker price balloons into something much, much larger.
Let's look at a real-world showdown. Sunset Orthopedic Group bought their MRI outright. They put down nearly $130,000, paid over $1.4 million in total costs over 7 years, and ended up stuck with an aging 1.5T MRI that had lost over $500,000 in resale value. Ouch. Meanwhile, Blue Ridge Radiology decided to lease. They put exactly $0 down, paid $894,000 over a 5-year lease, and at the end of the term, they just returned the machine and smoothly upgraded to a state-of-the-art 3T MRI. They preserved their working capital and entirely bypassed that nasty obsolescence risk.
Which brings us nicely to Section 3, why leasing preserves capital and the strategic benefits of operational flexibility. So, a fair market value or FMV lease is pretty much the most common structure you'll see for medical equipment. This agreement lets you use the equipment for a set term. And when that term is up, you have options. Buy it at its current fair market value, return it, or just renew the lease. Because the lessor is the one retaining the residual value risk, FMV leases typically offer the absolute lowest monthly payments. This makes it a complete game changer for practices that want to upgrade their technology regularly without getting weighed down by a depreciating asset.
The crucial takeaway here is that leasing acts as a financial shield. You get immediate access to professional-grade equipment with 0 to minimal down payment. It conserves your working capital so you can actually spend your cash on things that generate real revenue, like hiring another top-tier physician or launching a massive marketing campaign. It keeps your cash flow highly predictable. And, because maintenance is often bundled right into the agreement, you are fully protected from those catastrophic repair bills we talked about earlier.
All right, Section 4. Hidden traps and tax codes. We are navigating FDA rules, OEM ecosystems, and the IRS.
Okay, you really need to pay attention to this one. If you're looking at bundled placement agreements, where a supplier gives you a quote-unquote free machine if you sign a multi-year contract to buy their consumables, you absolutely must be aware of the accounting standard ASC 842. This rule officially ended the era of off-balance sheet financing. It forces you to recognize a right-of-use asset and a lease liability right there on your balance sheet. And this can trigger a very dangerous consumable debt trap. If your patient volume suddenly drops and you don't use the mandatory number of consumables, you are forced to capitalize those unused, expiring consumables as equipment debt. It is a massive hidden liability. But hey, it's not just accounting standards catching you off guard, it's the manufacturers themselves. Original equipment manufacturers, or OEMs, are famous for engineering these highly restrictive walled garden ecosystems. They use software locks and handpiece shot limits to literally trap you into continually buying their high-margin proprietary consumables. Even worse, because medical devices require strict FDA recertification for any internal component changes, manufacturers will frequently just declare an older, perfectly functional model as end of support, just to bypass the FDA red tape. If you bought that machine outright, you are suddenly left holding an unsupported, highly depreciated paperweight.
Now, to be completely fair, buying does have a major heavyweight in its corner: the tax code. The 2026 One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA, completely supercharged Section 179. It allows businesses to deduct the full purchase price of qualifying equipment up to over $2.5 million, complete with 100% bonus depreciation in the very first year. That is a massive, immediate tax shield for purchases. If you've got the cash on hand and you're buying a highly durable asset, this tax deduction can significantly lower your effective net cost right out of the gate. Moving into Section 5, navigating the secondary market. It's the classic new versus used aesthetic laser debate.
$50,000. That's not a typo. That is the staggering recertification fee that some predatory manufacturers will actually charge a secondary buyer just to turn on a used machine, honor a warranty, or even sell them replacement parts. It is basically an artificial monopoly designed to completely kill the secondary market. If you are trying to sell an owned laser, the next buyer is absolutely going to deduct this $50,000 fee from what they're willing to pay you, which means, you guessed it, you take a massive depreciation loss.
So you've got a real balancing act here. While buying used aesthetic lasers can save you up to 50% right off the top and totally protect you from that steep early depreciation curve, you have to walk into the transaction with your eyes wide open. You must carefully calculate the risk of those manufacturer recertification fees, the software locks, and the warranty expirations. If you buy from a reputable vendor who properly refurbishes and warranties the machine, buying used can be brilliant. But if you buy blind on the open market, you're playing with fire. Finally, Section 6, making the right choice. Consider this your ultimate capital allocation cheat sheet. When you map all this out, a clear golden rule of clinical capital allocation emerges. You have to match the financing vector to the technology's stability. For highly stable assets with a long useful life, things like core surgical lasers, basic clinical tools, or exam tables, you should buy them with cash or a standard equipment loan. Build that long-term equity and claim those sweet Section 179 tax benefits. But for fast-evolving technology, like MRI imaging or aesthetic laser platforms with a high obsolescence risk, you should absolutely use an operating lease. Shift the risk of that technology aging right back to the vendor, preserve your working capital, and guarantee yourself a built-in upgrade path. And for unproven niche treatments, just do a short-term rental to test patient demand before committing any real capital at all.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one absolutely critical question to ask yourself. The next time you look at your balance sheet or plan a clinical expansion or sit down across the desk from an equipment vendor, ask yourself, is your equipment driving growth or is it silently draining your capital through depreciation, maintenance traps, and opportunity costs? Look past the monthly payment, run the true total cost of ownership, and make the choice that actually builds your practice's long-term strength. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.